Sarva Vedaka Sapala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnabhya Sarva Loke Kadrik Prada. So I will do the translation also. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O nectar churn from the ocean of all scriptures, you are the most prominent transcendental fruits of the Vedas, enriched with the jewels of the all conclusive truth. You grant special vision to all the people of the world. Sarva Bhagavate Prana Srimad Bhagavate Prabhu Kali Dvantu Ditya Shri Krishna Parivartita. O breath of the Vaishnavas, devotees, O Lord, you are the sun which has risen to dispel the darkness of Kali Yuga. You are actually Lord Krishna who has returned among us. Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshi Aksharayate Sarvada Sarva Sevyaya Shri Krishnaya Namastume. O Srimad Bhagavatam, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. By your recitation, one attains transcendental bliss, because your syllables shower pure love of God upon the reader. You are always to be served by everyone, for you are an incarnation of Lord Shri Krishna. Mat eka bandhu mat sangen mat guru mat mahadhana mat nistiraka mat bhagya mat ananda namostute. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O my only friend, O my companion, O my teacher, O my great wealth, O my deliverer, O my good fortune, O my bliss, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Asadu sadhu tadayin ati nisho yuta hana muncha kadachinna premna hritkantayos puraha. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O bestower of saintliness to the unsaintly, O uplifter of the most fallen, please don't ever leave me. Please manifest yourself in my heart and in my throat, accompanied by pure love of Krishna. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Naruttamam Devim Saraswati Vyasam Tatu Jayam Udiraye Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavate Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Sloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtike. So I will start with lessons from Srimad Bhagavatam of the fifth canto. Okay, so due to the karmas, all living entities get different types of bodies for birth and death and other activities which cannot be avoided. So here, the title of this first chapter is The Activities of King Priyavrata. Maharaj Priyavrata was a liberated soul, and he had completely understood that he was not the body, but he was a spirit soul. So he performed his activities in such a way that they produce no reactions. So chapter 2 is to avoid the trap of Maya. We must beware of the flowery and flattery words of others. And the title is The Activities of Maharaj Agnidhra. When King Agnidhra saw the Apsara Purvachiti, he got so attracted by her that he used flowery and flattery words to win her over. He got so attached to her that even after death, he went to meet her in the Pitri Loka. And chapter 3. The Lord is so affectionate toward his devotees that he is satisfied even when they offer him a little water with a tulsi leaf. So the title is Risavdev appearance in the womb of Merudevi, the wife of King Nabhi. King Nabhi and his wife Merudevi prayed to the Lord to obtain a progeny. When the Lord appeared in front of them in his four hands form, all the priests, the king and his wife were very pleased as they offered elaborate prayers to the Lord. Although they had the 7 required means to obtain the mercy of the Lord, yet the Lord, yet they told the Lord that they knew that he would be satisfied only if his devotees offers him a little water and a tulsi leaf. But we should offer to the Lord the best depending on our capacity. So here again, the 7 means or the valuables, the eatables, nice place, time, and the priest, and offering gift to the priest, and following the regular principles, and all these are the 7 items. Chapter 4, whenever we perform sacrifices and offer prayers to the Lord, we need to do so through qualified brahmanas. And the title is A Characteristic of Rishabdev, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The brahmanas who perform the sacrificial ceremonies on behalf of King Nabi were qualified. Thus, by their powerful prayers, they brought forth the Supreme Personality of Godhead to the king, who could see the Lord face to face. Rishabdeva followed the footsteps of his father in performing his duties. Chapter 5, as a human form of life, as this human form of life is very rare, we must utilize it in the service of the Lord so that we can come out of the circle of birth and death. The title of this chapter is Lord Rishabdev's teaching to his sons. Lord Rishabdev taught his sons how to live life and how to get out of the circle of birth and death. This human form of life is for self-realization and not for sense gratification. Chapter 6, to be spiritually fit, we need to take the position of the eternal servant of the Lord, which will help us to leave our material body easily. And the title is The Activities of Lord Rishabdeva. Lord Rishabdeva showed no attachment to the material body. He wandered all over the world, and he met with a forest fire in South Bharat, where his body was burned to ashes. But as we know from Bhagavad Gita 2.23 also, where it says, Nainam chindanti sastrani, nainam dahati pavaka, na chainam kledanti apo, na sauswati maruta. So meaning that this body, the soul, cannot be burned by, cannot be cut into pieces by any weapons. The soul cannot be burned by fire, nor can it be moistened by water, nor withered by the wind. So Rishabdev, his body was burned, but he was a very elevated spirit soul. So we move on to chapter 7. To get detached from material bondage, one should share their property among their children as they grow old. The title is Activities of King Bharat. King Bharat divided his kingdom among his 5 sons, and then he left for the forest, where he ate forest vegetables and fruits. He continued to worship Lord Vasudeva. He constantly praised the Lord through the Gayatri mantra. And I move on to chapter 8 now. So in their next life, one acquires a body according to their thought at the time of death. Title is A Description of the Character of Bharat Maharaj. Although King Bharat was a very elevated soul, he fell down to the level of an animal due to his association with a deer. If he was in the association of devotees, he could have been saved. But even in the deer body, he remembered his past life activities due to his previous pious deeds. Chapter 9, we can atone to reduce the effect of his sin, but we must seek forgiveness for an offense committed towards someone. The title is The Supreme Character of Jad Bharat. Although he was a highly elevated soul, Jad Bharat did not like to reveal his identity, even when he was taken to be sacrificed in front of Goddess Kali. So by some dacoit, he was taken there. So he was convinced that the soul is different from the body. So Goddess Kali personally manifested and killed those decoys. Charbharat was a self-realized soul and a well-wisher to all living entities. Chapter 10, an elevated soul always show compassion toward all living entities, thus trying to elevate others also. The title is Discussion between Jarbharat and Maharaj Rahugana. Jarbharat felt compassion for Maharaj Rahugana, and he decided to talk so that to save Maharaj Rahugana. He never spoke before, even when he was captured to be sacrificed. This is a proper behavior of elevated souls. Chapter 11. It is very difficult to control the mind, but if one manages to do so, the mind becomes the best friend. Otherwise, it is one worst enemy. Jarbharat instructed King Raugana. The title is Jarbharat instructed King Raugana. Jarbharat instructed King Raugana about controlling the mind, because the mind can be our best friend or worst enemy. The mind becomes attracted to material sense enjoyment, thus paving the path to the future life. So if we can control the mind, then we can pave a nice path for our next life. In chapter 12, we should never judge a person by their appearance, because elevated souls do not like to exhibit their saintly qualities. The title is Conversation between Maharaja Rahugana and Jarbharat. Although Jarbharat was an elevated soul, he never disclosed his real identity. He pretended to be mad, dumb, and deaf, and accepted the ill treatments from others. But when he wanted to save King Rahugana from the material conception of life, then he spoke. Chapter 13. When one takes shelter of the devotee of the Lord, they can easily get detached from material bondage. The title is Further Talks Between King Rahugana and Jarbharat. King Rahugana realized how spiritually powerful Jarbharat was, and so he appreciated how by a moment of association with Jarbharat, he could easily get detached from the material world. Chapter 14. The Lord is so compassionate toward his devotees that sometimes he takes away their material possession, thus favoring them to surrender unto him. The title is The Material World as a Great Forest of Enjoyment. Sukadeva Goswami explained the material forest and its difficult path to Maharaj Parikshit. In this chapter, Sukadeva Goswami compares the life of human being to animals' life. He also explains about the uncontrolled senses which are under the illusion. The forest of material existence is summarized in this chapter. Chapter 15, a householder should observe the rules and regulations of household life and perform sacrifices so that he can become a good devotee of the Lord. The title is The Glories of the Descendant of King Priyavrata. King Gaya took birth in the descendant of King Priyavrata. He was a very pious king. He took good care of the citizen. He observed the rules and regulations of household life, thus setting example to the citizens. He was a strict devotee of the Lord. He respected others and was always jubilant. He never experienced lamentation. Chapter 16. If we want happiness in this life and want to prepare for the best in the next life, we must adopt the Vedic civilization. And the title is A Description of Jambudvipa. In this chapter, example are given of how we can lead a happy and prosperous life if we adopt a Vedic civilization where we can find all the necessities of life for survival. Here, the opulence and beauty of Jambudvipa are elaborated upon. People were leading a perfect life in that era. Chapter 17. If one takes birth in the if one take a bath in the river Ganga, they become purified and develop devotional attitude towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The title is A Descendant of River Ganga. Mother Ganga is so pure that she can purify the most degraded entity. A few drops of her water fell on Lord Shiva's head and remained there for 1,000 millenniums. Bhagirath, who was from the descendant of King Sagara, wanted to liberate the souls of his 60,000 great uncles from the curse of Kapildev. So he offered prayers and pleased Mother Ganga, who eventually accepted to descend in this world to liberate the fallen souls. Chapter 18, whoever has taken birth has to die, but people has a tendency to forget the imminent truth and just think about sense enjoyment. Title is The Prayers Offered to the Lord by the Residents of Jambu Dweepa. We need to be attentive, even though we are Krishna consciousness, because due to the association with the modes of material nature for a long time, even a liberated soul can be captivated by the illusory energy and take to sense enjoyment. So we should rigidly follow the regulative principles and cautiously execute devotional service, also bearing in mind that death can come at, always bearing in mind that death can come at any time. In chapter 19, the Lord doesn't care about our knowledge, wealth, beauty, name, fame, or strength. He is pleased only when we sincerely surrender unto him. The title is A Description of the Island of Jammu Dweepa. So in this chapter, Lord Ramachandra is described how he was satisfied with the service of Hanumanji. It is stated in Srila Prabhupada's purport that the Lord is satisfied by a little service rendered by anyone, human or not. He made friends with even the monkeys, bear, and a tiny squirrel who wanted to help in building the bridge to Lanka. As human beings, we should take this great opportunity to render devotional service unto the Lord. Chapter 20. We should worship only the Supreme Lord and not the demigods because they are subordinate to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The title is Studying the Structure of the Universe. In this chapter, Sukadeva Goswami explained about the dimensions, characteristics, and form of the 6 islands. He also described the position of the demigods and their functions. In Bhagavad Gita also, it is described how the demigods perform their prescribed duties out of fear of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The 6 islands were reigned by the sons of Priyavrata, and the oceans contain different liquids such as salt water, liquor, yogurt, clear water, milk, etc. So chapter 21, every movement of the sun, even the movement of the sun is controlled by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, which is considered to be the eye of the Lord. Thus the sun is also called Surya Narayan. The title is The Movement of the Sun. So an elaborate explanation is given here about the sun and its movement, how it travels in different signs of the zodiac, and how it allows all living entities to engage in their various duties. According to different time zone, the sun gives light and warmth to residents of different planets. It is also stated here that there are different planets, but there is only one sun. Chapter 22. The moon represents the influence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as it is full of all potentialities. So that he has the ability to develop different kind of activities. So here, in this chapter, the location, the qualities, and influence of different stars and planets are explained. So the title is Orbit of the Planets. The moon is very potent and has the ability to develop the qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, as it is the predominating deity of everyone's mind, it is called Manomaya. Since it gives potency to all planets and herbs, it is called also Amritamaya. And because it is all pervading, it is also called Sarvamaya. So chapter 23, everyone is under the influence of the time factor, which is just another feature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The title is the Sushimara Planetary System. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is so kind that he has placed different planetary systems on the body of the imaginary animal called Sushimara. Actually, it is another form of the Lord himself. As stated above, everyone is under the influence of the time factor, but due to his love for his devotee Dhruva Maharaj, the Lord has arranged for the time factor to work under Dhruva Maharaj. Chapter 24, non-devotees are engaged in sense gratification only, not caring for what will happen in their next life, but devotees are anxious for the deliverance of such entities. The title is The Subterranean Heavenly Planets. In this chapter, many heavenly planets are described. The inhabitants lead happy and opulent lives. They are engrossed only in sense gratification, not caring for what kind of body they will get in their next lives. They are not God conscious because they don't experience bodily discomfort. Some demons, just by yawning, can produce women. Also, in one of the planet named Vitala, Lord Shiva resides, where gold is easily obtained. In Nagaloka, the snake illuminates the whole planetary system by the light emanating from the gems of their hoods. So they don't need any other lights. Chapter 25, simply by chanting his glories, Lord Ananta Deva can end our passage through this material world and can liberate us. The title is The Glories of Lord Ananta. Lord Ananta is worshipped even by Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and the four Kumaras, Vyasadeva, Sukadev Goswami, and Narada Muni. He is an incarnation of Lord Balaram. He came as Lakshman in Treta Yuga, and he is Sankarsana also. By the glance of Lord Ananta, the three modes of material nature interact and produce creation, maintenance, and annihilation. Yet, while bearing the universe on one of his hoods, Anantadeva chant the glories of Lord Shri Krishna with each of his thousands of mouths. Chapter 26. If we want to avoid going to different hellish planets, we must refrain from performing immoral activities mentioned in this chapter. So different hells, okay, the title is a description of the hellish planet. Different hells are described here, and also different immoral activities are described, which are prominent nowadays. The only way to avoid these hellish planets is to take to Krishna consciousness seriously, where we get the proper knowledge of how to avoid the activities and the planets. Sometimes people don't believe in this description of hell, but whether one believes it or not, they are carried out by the law of nature and cannot be avoided. Hare Krishna, thank you. I have some question afterwards, please.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Hare Krishna. So, would anybody like to add anything or question anything from these lessons? Very nicely put by Indulekha Maji.
Thank you for your appreciation, Prabhuji. But I have some questions here myself. Because yesterday I was quiet, so I was just as a
Okay.
Go on.
Okay, so my first question is, the hells are described here, and activities are put into different entities are put into different hells according to what happened. So accordingly, like whatever we do, we go to a certain hell. So how does it work? What happened to people who have committed many sins in this in their lifetime? So do they go in different hell? Do they go only in one? Do they get another body and come back? And how does it work?
I don't know. I think it's something that Yamraj would have to decide. Yeah, because he's in charge. He will see what's happened. And it was like, who was it? There was somebody who went to, was it Jay and Vijay? Chitragupt, it said he couldn't even count how much sins they performed. Jagai and Madan. What is
Jay and Vijay.
Jagai and Madan. They committed so many sins that he couldn't even count, and he writes them all down. So where would they go? I think it's the punishment is dependent on Yamraj. You think he's got complete authority over what punishment he metes out. So if he sees a soul has really been very bad, the ultimate object of the hellish planets is to, of course, punish the sinner, but also Krishna. We're all children of Krishna, even the ones who are in hell. Ultimately, the Lord wants that person to be purified and come back to him. Ultimately, that's what he wants. So
yeah, but we see that one person may commit different sinful activities that is mentioned in the book, actually.
yeah,
In
then
the
he may have to go to different hells.
Yes, that's why I want to know. Do they go one after the other, or do they go in the one which is worse, and then in this way atone to all the sins? Or this is
maybe it's not specified. But what I'm trying to say is Yamraj is a devotee of Krishna, and he also will have, although he's got this role of allocating the punishment, he's also a devotee of Krishna, and he taps into what Krishna wants, that he wants the souls to go back to him. So he will put them he will punish them enough so that they become purified of those sins. So whatever punishment is due to them, they'll get. And if they committed many different, then I think, as you said, he may just put them in hell, which is perhaps the worst of them all. So the purification takes place immediately. I'm not convinced that he would send them to one hell after another hell, because the idea is, yes, punishment, but purification. And
so do they after atoning in one hell, do they come back to human life and then?
No, I don't. I believe what happens. I read this somewhere. I can't remember where now. Maybe there was Garud Puran, maybe, that they will come through the evolution of life again. There's this smallest living entity, and then from an amoeba to
yes. So then eventually it will come to human life, right?
Eventually come back to human life.
Okay.
Over time.
So another thing is, yes, Prabhuji, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Navi, Hare Bol, Hare Krishna to everyone.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, it's interesting. I can relate a pastime if there is time. There's a little bit of, I won't take too long over it if you want me to.
Yeah, you can.
Which relates to this hellish condition, and it's a true story of a devotee, actually. Well, he did become a devotee, but he wasn't at first. Would you want me to? I mean, if there is time, otherwise, if Mataji has still got to carry on with the lessons and all, then I'll.
No, Prabhuji, I'm okay. You can go ahead, please. I will ask my question later. I have another question for later. For now, you go.
I'll try and keep it very short then. All right, but this relates to what we're talking about now, and that's why I felt like participating in it. But it's actually a pastime I was reading, and I had made notes on it a long time ago, so I found those notes. It's about a devotee called Sri Rangaji. And Sri Rangaji was a businessman, actually, this is in Jaipur, in a place called Josha. And he was a businessman, and he wasn't a devotee at first. He was actually quite a bad character. He would cheat everyone. in his business. He would be conniving and all sorts of things, you know. And he had a servant also, but his servant was even worse than him. And he did some really bhayankar paps, you know, like sins, and he died. So um, ultimately, you know, this servant of his had to go and face Yamaraj. And Yamaraj kind of engaged him and made him one of the servants or one of the leaders of the Yamadutas. And he said, you better do my service for me as well, while you're, you know, paying for your dues. And you know, when he was made the leader of these Yamadutas, he was one time he was asked to go and fetch a particular individual who was also very, very, because he was a papi, you know, he was a very sinful person himself, and he had done bhayankar paps, you know. So he would know the personality, those particular souls like that. So yeah, you know, Yamraj had made him in charge. So one day he had to go and fetch this particular soul, um, living person from this same town called Josha, you know, in Jaipur. And when he was, and this was another uh, sort of Vanjara, you know, he, he had committed some sin and all that, and his time was up. So he was sent to fetch this particular person on this particular day. So while he was in Josha, he said, this is where I was in Josha. It was in the same town here, and I know that my boss was very bad, you know, and he was obviously leading me into bad things as well. So he actually goes to, well, appears in his dream to the Sri Rangji, you know, he comes in his kind of dream, and he warns him. He says, you better change your ways, you know. He said, if not, one of these days I'll have to come and fetch you as well. And, you know, you won't be a nice experience for you. So you better change your ways and all that. So when this Rangji kind of alerted one night, you know, and he woke up in the middle of the night thinking, what is going on? So what is this? This must be a bad dream or what? You know, I'm dreaming of this servant of mine, and then he's turning to be this wild character called Yamduta type thing, and he's warning me this. And what is it? So he thought, but it must be a bad dream. So he just, then he said, well, what are you doing? He said, well, you know, this particular person in this town, I have come to fetch him. He said, well, what's wrong with him? He's a nice guy. In the dream, he said, you know, his health is good, he's very fit. And, you know, why have you come to fetch him? And he said, no, he said, you wait. In the morning, you know, there's a big bull, and the bull is going to really I'm gonna get on top of the horns of this bull and go for him and smash into him, and his time will be up. And this person, he's gonna have to. I'll have to take him. But so this businessman runs. He thought, how can this be? You know. So he just thought it was a bad dream, a nightmare. You know. And then, sure enough, the following day, there was a report of this guy's friend who had been killed by a bull with the horns. And he thought, this is serious. This is come true. It's like I had a dream, and it's true. So this warning. So he really took that as a notice. Now, obviously, some people may not take a warning as a sign of, you know, trying to do something about it. And he kind of woke up with that. It's like, you know, this was like a chetavani, you know, like a warning to me. I better do something about it. So he changed his ways completely in his lifetime. And then he turned completely doing all the bad things. He turned towards um, bhajans and kirtans and reading shastras, associate with sadhus, and he started to doing bhakti, and then eventually he did take what do you say, complete parivartan, meaning like complete transformation in his life, and he took initiation from a disciple or a sishya of this Ramananda, and he took diksha, and his name was Anantanand Das. So he took initiation from him as well, and he became very saintly, and he really helped so many people. And it was like, there was one boy in his lifetime. There was one particular boy who wasn't very healthy, and he was having nightmares and all that. And somebody came to him and he says, "What's wrong with my son? He's not well, and what's going on?" Then he said, "This boy said, I keep seeing these ghostly personalities. It's annoying me so much." So Shirangji said, he said, "Okay, let me stay with you for a bit." And then obviously he could recognize this particular pret. They call it pret, bhoot pret. So, and he sort of, Shirangji, because he was a devotee and he could understand, he wasn't scared of this pret or anything. In fact, the pret was now scared, and he was surrendered to this Rangji, because Rangji chased him, and this is all happening sometimes as subtle bodies as well, which we can sometimes understand. So the pret actually ran away and started running, but then he came and said, "I have recognized you and your saintly qualities." He said, "You don't realize how fortunate I am to come to you." So the Ranji asked him, he said, "Who are you then? What's?" He said, "I was in my previous life, I was a goldsmith, and I've done some really bad stuff. I used to cheat a lot of people. I have, some abominable things I've done, and now I'm as a pret suffering here. But I've come to you, and I'm surrendering to you. Please free me from this." And then that Shurangji took some Sharanamrit and Ganges water and all that, and sprinkled over him and freed him from his sufferings as well. So these are sort of, this is like a warning of a Yamadutta which transformed his life. And Sri Rangi, being a Vaishnav, then later on he did write a few of in his pastimes. So this disclosed how his previous life and his warning. So these are the sort of things can happen, that Yamaduttas will come. Yamaraj will send his servants. We know from the story of Ajamil as well, how Yamadutta had come to fetch him. And so it's some people have to take a warning and change their ways of life, but there are personalities who have done abominable things in this world. So anyway, I hope this helps and makes sense. Hare Krishna.
Hey, thank you for sharing that.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you for sharing. So I go back to my question now, Navi Prabhu.
Yes.
So on where it's written chapter 26 on that page, and end of first chapter of first paragraph, it's written, religious persons act differently from atheists, and therefore they suffer different reactions. So even religious person suffers?
Yeah, because there's a difference between religion and spirituality, right?
Yes.
Religion can be one day one is Christian, in the morning, and then afternoon can be Muslim, in the evening can be Hindu. So that can change, but of course our spirituality doesn't change. So if one is focused on religion, but still within that context, there's performance of sinful activities. For example, some religions don't prohibit various, sinful activities like
Yes,
eating
yes, like
meat.
meat eating and all. Yes.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
that is okay. That is there.
yeah, yeah.
That is and also in yeah, on this page, has anybody noticed anything?
Oh, hang on. What page?
This is a chapter 26.
Let me bring it up. Chapter 26.
Not a big deal, but just I just want to know if anybody has noticed anything.
You
on
mean
this
on the
page.
lessons, right?
No. On the page itself. The page is, let me tell you, so don't worry about it. So the page is
But we can't
7,
see
8,
a
9.
page, huh? We can't see a page.
That's okay. That's okay. But the page, I have the page, but it's the numbers is 7, 8, 9. The three consecutive numbers, 7, 8, 9. I found it a bit like amazing, right? We got this and then we get a chapter. So I was reading one purport of Srila Prabhupada in this chapter itself, I think, or in the chapter 25, where Srila Prabhupada was mentioning that in one person, like a man, he is enjoying his father's wealth, and then when his son dies, he enjoys his son's property also, and also he enjoys his son's wife. So this is something that is really happening. It is happening because I have known someone who is going through this kind of very sinful and very atrocious things going on. So it is really happening, but we don't know when this has been written, and Srila Prabhupada wrote it like maybe 50 years ago. But nowadays we can see it is prominent, it's happening in this world. Yes. Yeah, so many things that we are reading, we are experiencing now. Because of Kali Yuga and all, we are experiencing, and we don't know how it is going to be. It is going to be worse day by day.
Yeah.
Yes. So we should be like very careful, and we should abide and take examples from these books and try to make others understand that how this life is going to be degraded more and more, and to please try to understand what is written in there, and to put into our life. And yes, that was I wanted to share. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing.
Okay, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for listening.
Very good. Very good. So
I
let's.
had one doubt.
Yes.
What Srila Prabhupada says, no, that what religion, and now you are also saying that whatever religion may be, you can follow how to teach the love God. But I don't find any religion or something maybe like that. There are sinful activities in every religion. Like they have mentioned in Bible, you have to eat some animals. You should not eat some other animals. But eating meat is sinful according to our Sanatan Dharma or whatever we're following. So how God will be very pleased if they eat something which is prohibited according to Sanatana Dharma? So how can they love without humility and without peace? Right? Even in Islam also, they will eat meat and they'll not drink alcohol, I think. But still, that is sinful. No, how can without humility and without peace or any patience, how can they love God?
Yeah, because in fact, those religions, thou shalt not kill, that includes animals, but they interpret it very narrowly. Thou shalt not murder. This is Christianity. So that's not correct. And many scholars have shown how they have changed the wording in the Bible to suit, themselves. So correct. And even in the Quran, for example, there is halal. Now, in order to get halal, the idea is you take out all of the blood from the animal. Well, how is that ever going to be possible? Never going to be able to manage that. So the guidance is there. Yeah, you can eat meat. Even in the Vedas, it says you can eat meat, right? You can kill a goat, but you have to say a mantra into the ear of the goat. I'll kill you this life. You can kill me next life. So that that to the person who's practicing that, they would soon hopefully realize that, hang on, this is not a good deal. I eat you, you eat me. So they stop eating. So all these religions, they tend to give the right direction, but the practitioner may not take that right direction. So it is the fault of the practitioner, not the religion. So yeah, if they want to eat fellow beings that exist on our planet, then of course there will be an issue. There will always be an issue. So they will suffer, because causing suffering to somebody always has a reaction back to the person causing the suffering. So that's correct.
But I think the halal also, they do the same, right? They tell the animal in the ear.
That I haven't heard.
You know, when I was growing up, I know that in Mauritius, people were doing that. So I was living in a community where there are lots of Muslims. So we were like children, we were going and playing everywhere. I would see when they want to kill a chicken, like a hen, they take it near into a river or under a running tap. They will cover their head with a red cloth and they speak something in the ear. So one day I asked, as a child, you know, we are curious to know. Then somebody was telling me that before killing that animal, they have to kind of give the animal a bath underwater, and then they talk to the animal in the ear. So I said, what do you say? What do you tell? So they say, I'm killing you in this time, in this lifetime, next lifetime you kill me. So I say, you're not scared. Next lifetime, this is who has seen next life. So that is their opinion.
Yeah.
But I think only in our Bhagavatam that we get all these. I don't think that it is written somewhere else. Otherwise, people would be careful, right?
Interesting. Thank you for sharing that. We shall try to find out more about that. That's very interesting indeed. Okay, so let's go to the fifth canto, Bhagavatam Ki Jai.